Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fantasy Flavor Podcast, where we spicing up your daily dose of fantasy football content. So we're back here again in the good old Massachusetts, for me at least. Trenton, Trenton somewhere else. But that's not important here. And we're going to do our first ever mock draft. Before we begin, I just want to let everybody know that Sanatsan is currently away for personal matters. We don't know when he's going to be back. We think it's going to be a few weeks, but we're going to be holding down the fort for him here. It's going to be a good time, so don't worry about him being gone. He's going to be back soon. He's going to be back full energy, and we're super excited for when he's back. But let's focus on the now. So, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, as usual.
Fantastic. That's the only thing he ever is, fantastic. So, let's get this mock draft rolling right away. And before, let me explain what's going to be happening. So we're both going to be collaborating there on the 2 pick. I'm slotted in at the 12th pick. That way I can see the players on the board. But I will not be picking. We will be auto-picking that selection. So we're only focusing on the 2 spot. I'm there on the 12th spot just so I can see the players available, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see who's on the board, and that makes it a little harder for me to give true analysis there. So, with that being said, are we ready to roll on with this wonderful first ever mock draft from the 2 spot, 12-man PPR? Are we ready?
Let's begin.
Awesome.
I think I have to go through and auto pick all of these, so that's going to be fun. But
you messed up the
first
settings.
Pick is Saquon. Okay.
That was anticipated.
It was expected, yeah. All right.
That's A-okay.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I think the position's running back. How about you?
Of course. It's got to be running back, even in PPR. The top 4 or 5 players should be running backs, in my opinion.
100%. I definitely think the top 4, but outside of those top 4, I don't really know.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins, Melvin Gordon. You could argue a whole bunch of names. For me, it'd be Joe Mixon, technically, but that's a little bit of a reach.
Yeah. So,
who do you think it's not? So we have the 3 running backs. Let's just be honest. We're pretty level with the consensus here with the top 4 running backs. In the order that they're listed is Kamara, Zeke, or McCaffrey. Is there any one of those 3 names that you think you could chop off?
The one I don't like in this, and I mean, I've drafted him before. He's done great for me, and I love him as a player, but I really don't think his fantasy total is going to stay up there, is Kamara. Because thinking of all the points he put up last year, he had 14 rushing touchdowns. Is that sustainable? I really doubt that. He had under 900 yards rushing. He had just under 800 yards receiving too. He put up just over 1,500 total yards. But the issue is that touchdown total, I think, is going to drop, and he'll still be a great fantasy back, but I don't think he's worth that number 2 slot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Kamara was pretty high on during the offseason because of the fact that Ingram was leaving. And here's a whopping stat for you. This is definitely due for regression, but I wish it wasn't. Kamara was on pace in PPR for over 35 points per game when Mark Ingram wasn't active. That's crazy. That's nobody's been close to that. I don't know how LT's best season, the best fantasy season ever. I think ever. That's even including quarterbacks. I don't even know how he lines up to that. They have to be close. And honestly, wouldn't surprise me if Kamara was over that. As for the rushing touchdowns, I think they will stay. Murray's scary, but I could see Kamara getting a little more work with Ingram gone. I think Murray's worse than Mark Ingram. Obviously, the Saints think that too. As well, I guess they probably do think that, but they haven't shown it off. But they decided to go with Murray because Murray commanded less money in the market. So I feel like Kamara's safe because he has that true workhorse upside, but he's been super consistent. So I don't hate Kamara. Kamara's pretty safe.
Of course, I don't hate Kamara. It's just I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that. He's due to regress. He had 14 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns last year. That's 18 touchdowns, and there's no way he gets to that again. I mean, sure, he has the potential to get there, but I think it's extremely unlikely that he gets anywhere close.
The guy who I think is going to regress more than Kamara, because I think that's sustainable. If they keep that first half of the season offense up, the second half of the season, the Saints offense was honestly god awful, especially Drew Brees, because I traded for him in fantasy. Regret that. Christian McCaffrey, I could see some regression because I could see his snap count going down. Granted, they didn't really add anybody there in free agency or the draft that could really take his work. Maybe Elijah Holyfield, excuse me.
Right, but I
Could
think
get some work.
Holyfield's more of a backup. He's more of that backup guy, so I don't think he'll really take much away.
I know, but he did have a 90% snap share. Granted, I said the same thing about Kareem Hunt before Kareem Hunt went out. He was obviously very, very good. He got really, really hot once he got settled there with Mahomes. The other fear with Christian McCaffrey is just what's up with Cam Newton. Granted, he did produce fine, but I feel like he's just due for regression. But that's just because of the fact that is this dynasty or redraft, by the way? What type of league is this? Because that's actually going to impact how I think.
Yeah,
what do we
it's
want
set
to
up
do?
as redraft, so I think this first one we should do a redraft since it's set up like that. But
so it's redraft. That actually matters a lot.
It'll be more for our the average viewer because you don't see many people out there that are playing dynasty.
Yeah, I took C-Mac recently in one of the leagues I'm drafting in, and I like him. Dynasty, I'm a little concerned because I don't know how a 205 frame can hold up with that many touches over a long period of time. It probably can't for a long term of time. But I feel like Christian McCaffrey just screams regression. But that's why he's my RB3, because I don't hate him, because I don't think he'll regress that much. The snap share's gotta regress. There's no way he can play 90% of the snaps again. But the pick here for me, the reason why we kind of hated on Kamara and McCaffrey is because the pick here for me is Zeke. He's just too consistent. He can definitely hit the RB1, like the highest total with those amount of receptions he had now. And like positive touchdown regression is coming for him. But he's just so safe. Like I can't see him playing a whole 60 and finishing outside the top 5. And it's so important with these first 5 picks that we have here that we don't bust. Because it's a high % chance that you bust with some of these picks. So you do not want to bust. And Zeke's just too safe for me. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. So Zeke he's proven year after year after year he's going to consistently get you those points. It even shows on his projected points for the upcoming season. He's 10 points higher than the other two, Kamara and McCaffrey. I think that's totally accurate because Zeke is always that consistent workhorse. He's going to get a ton of carries. He'll catch the ball enough to stay relevant and PPR, and he scores a ton of touchdowns. So I think he'll be that really good guy for us. So I totally agree. Are we settled? He's the number 2 pick?
Yeah, we talked a lot just to agree, but I do agree. For me, it's Zeke here.
All right, let's go ahead and draft that. We go through and auto pick.
No problem. While they're auto picking, I'm just going to analyze what I see here quickly. Bell at 5's a reach. I draft him later in the round. TJ, I'm pretty confident on. Gordon kind of slipped. DeAndre Hopkins slipped a ton. James Conner's a little bit early. Julio, Todd Gurley, I don't like him. Fade Todd Gurley. I don't draft injured players. Juju's a value. I like Juju. Cook's also nice. Mixon, that's a steal. AB a little early. Kelsey, I like that, but I'm not drafting him too much. Williams, I'm not a big fan of that. We have one more pick here in Thielen. What did you think about what just happened here? Like in a quick, maybe like minute kind of ramble. Is there anything that surprised you with what just happened?
The top 4 was going to happen. That was money. We knew who the top 4 were going to be. Bell, I think he's a bit high, but he definitely has the potential to reach that top 3 running back status. Adams, I really like going to the season. I think he's going to be wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver. Definitely, that's a safe pick. David Johnson is a question mark. I like him. I really, really, really like him. But the offensive line is horrible, and it's just a real big question of what he'll do. Melvin Gordon is a great back. He'll consistently get it, but I don't think he'll ever be that top 3 back. DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, those two are kind of similar. They get a lot of targets. They're going to catch the ball a lot. They're really reliable. So I think those are great value picks there. James Conner, I'm iffy on. He had 1 year of big production, so I don't know where it's gonna go from there. Julio Jones, great pick. End of the first round, you're gonna get Julio in a redraft league. That's really, really big. But then that's followed up by Todd Gurley, which could really bust in leagues if he doesn't play the whole season. If he does, I think he'll do fantastic. But if he gets injured or if they play him less, I think that's a bit of a reach. OBJ and Juju are both going to get good targets. I think Juju's going to get more targets because Cleveland has more weapons, but both have really good upside. Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, those two are in the same tier for me. I know you're higher on Mixon, but Cook and Mixon both have that upside, but they both have medium to low floor, so you never know what you're going to get from those two. But those two are really good boom picks, potential picks. Antonio Brown, it's a big question mark. I don't know how he's going to do in Oakland. He could be a great pick there. He could be a bad pick. We just have to see. Travis Kelce is a decent pick. I may have waited till the third round for Kelce, but I can definitely see that because he puts up wide receiver one type numbers, especially now that Tyreke Hill is gone. Damian Williams is a huge reach. I really don't think he's going to be that great go-to guy for them. I think they'll find somebody else soon enough, but he could be their lead back for a few weeks, but I think they'll go more to committee. Nick Chubb is good for the first half of the season. Then they get Kareem back, and there's just too many weapons for him to get a ton of carries. I think that's a bit of a reach. And Thielen and Diggs they're going to take targets away from each other. Sure, they'll both put up monster numbers, but I don't think it's going to be worth that pick.
Great analysis there. Over a little bit of a minute, but we'll gladly take some great analysis over there a minute. For me, James Conner is just one of the most interesting players before we move on here. And the pick for me is obvious here, why I'm talking about James Conner. But Pittsburgh backs have always produced, but it could be a committee, could not be a committee. So James Conner is really a guy I'm lower on, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finished top 3. So I want to move on here. If that's cool with you, who are you thinking here with this pick?
Honestly, it'd be a toss-up between the top 2 guys left on the board, Mike Evans, T.Y. Hilton. Both guys can put up huge numbers for the wide receiver position, and both are big boom or bust candidates. But honestly, I think Mike Evans has the safer floor. I think he'll have a higher target share because the Colts just added a ton of weapons. Luck's going to put up huge numbers, but he is unknown for spreading the ball around and getting a lot of different receivers in the game. Evans is the go-to guy on the offense. He's meshed really well with Jameis Winston throughout their careers. And even though O.J. Howard is a great tight end, I think Evans has the higher floor than Hilton, even though Hilton could overall maybe have the higher ceiling in redraft. What do you think?
For me, this isn't close. I think it's Evans. He's the last person in that kind of tier I had. We had Williams, Thielen, Chubb, Kelce, AB, all go, and Gurley, who were in a lower tier than me. So the fact that we can get Mike Evans, who I take in the front end of the second round is incredible. For me, Mike Evans has the highest ceiling and floor of any player here. I think he has a higher ceiling than Hilton because he can get more targets because he has less weapons around him. T.Y. Hilton has to compete with Campbell, Ebron, Doyle. You have Hines. Who else do you have? Devin Funchess. Marlon Mac can catch, not much, but he's someone there. And if he will never eclipse over 10 touchdowns, Mike Evans can easily do that, 100%. And so for me, it's Mike Evans because he's been so consistent, 1,000-yard seasons, no injuries. Hilton's been injured a little bit for me. It's Mike Evans. Go ahead and pick him.
I can totally agree with that. All right, let's move it along, see where we go from here. Fournette's the next pick, followed by Hilton. All right, what do you think about those two?
Fournette's a little early, but I'm all in. And Drew Osenchuk, who was recently on the podcast here for the one-on-one series, which, by the way, please go check out. I'm telling you, I learned so much about evaluating rookie talent. Like, it was incredible. I really wish I could redo all my rookie drafts because he just had such a cool mentality, which I think I'm going to try to bestow here in this draft. But for Leonard Fournette, a little early, but he's a great buy low. That's my opinion. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. I think Fournette, if he stays healthy for a full 16 games, He will be RB1 throughout the year. He's like not the first overall running back. He won't be the top guy, but he'll put up in that tier of numbers. He'll give you consistent numbers each week. So I feel like he's a consistent guy. He'll grind out those yards every week. But I just am worried about that injury history.
Yeah, the injury history is concerning because actually, if you take back, and I feel like it's a little unfair because it's college, he's averaged, including the season and his college career, 12 games per season. That's pretty much Melvin Gordon. Look where Melvin Gordon went, 108. Fournette could be a player. Well, here you're getting him at 212. That's probably going around the third, even fourth round. I've seen him drop to. That could be like your 108 next year. He honestly, with the new offensive line, got Jawan Taylor, a top 10 talent in a right tackle position, but injury dropped him down there. The line can't stay healthy, but if it can, even for 12 games, that Fournette can play, if that kind of lines up. He caught 40 passes too, so he can catch. He's not like the greatest receiver. You're not going to line him out wide much, but he literally will catch some balls. So I really like Fournette. And Hilton was the next guy for me, so I have no problems with that. So I want to start it off here, looking at some of the players here available. I don't love where we're at, honestly. There's no guy I straight up look at and I'm like, damn, I love this player. And this is the only thing I don't like about having the 2 spot compared to the 4 spot, is I feel like the 4 spot I can get some better players early on. Granted, I'm happy with Mike Evans, so whatever. So for me, I like Marlon Mac in redraft. Hate him in Dynasty because I think he's going to be replaced in a year. And with Mac, there's less risk in redraft because we talked about how we don't want our picks to bust, but they probably are going to bust anyways. And Marlon Mack could totally be that guy. But, like, if you're investing in Marlon Mack, you're going to have him for, like, the rest of your life in Dynasty. So I like him more in redraft because the risk matters less. And he's going to be replaced because he's not going to be replaced this year. Freeman I don't like. So the 3 guys here for me would probably be Diggs or Mack. But I don't hate Cooper or Allen. I just think Diggs is going to really break out this year because the new OC targeted him a fuck ton more than he targeted Thielen. Granted, it was a small sample size. I'm talking like Diggs was targeted like more than twice as much, especially in the red zone. He had 3 touchdowns in those 3 games. And Thielen, a lot of his production really came from the fact that Cook was out. When Cook was actually in, Thielen averaged a lot less points per game because Cook kind of takes up that safety blanket. He averages a lot of receptions, similar to receptions which you would feed an Adam Thielen. So, for me, the pick here is either Diggs or Mack. What do you think?
All I'm saying is scroll down to number 40. That's what I have. I'm totally kidding. It's Philip Lindsay, but joking aside, I mean, yeah, I'm high on him, but that's not my pick.
No
I'd
way
have to
in
go.
hell. No way in hell, I'm telling you.
All jokes aside, it's Mac. Stephon Diggs is gonna be going with Adam Thielen. I like Diggs more in Dynasty because Thielen is, I think, 28 now. I think he only has a couple more years, but so Diggs will take over in a few years as the clear-cut number 1 option. But Marlon Mack is going to be that workhorse back this year. They've said he's going to be their workhorse. He put up huge numbers as the workhorse last season for the final, I think, 9 weeks of the season. He was the RB 8 or 9 over those weeks. And that's just huge. Sure, he doesn't put up great receiving numbers, but he has the ability. Sure, he has Hines there, but still, I think Mac is going to be that workhorse back. I think he's the last of the pure workhorse running backs here, other than maybe Jacobs, but I don't like Jacobs as much because he's unproven. So I think the pick here has to be Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I agree. And if just kind of looking at the running backs, look how many have already gone. And the trend's going to continue here with a lot of these guys going to be gone. I bet you maybe even Montgomery wouldn't come back to us. By the way, if Montgomery comes back to us, we're taking him, probably. It's just in my eyes. But you probably take Mac. Like I said, if there's one pick so far that I think is not going to work out, and we can like go back and see, it's going to be Marlon Mack. But And honestly, we need a second running back because this is where you got to evaluate your draft. And while Diggs is the best player on my board, I also know that wide receiver is deeper. And looking at the trend of the draft, looking at our spot in our next pick, sometimes you don't draft your best available player, especially in a redraft league. Sometimes you just got to draft and just trust the draft will work out for you. So go ahead, grab Marlon Mac. I like it.
And I have to say this. Mac is this is the part where the running backs get to boom bust options. And at the running back position, we already have Zeke, who is going to put up those consistent numbers. And I draft my second running back I draft as my RB2 is that guy that'll put up huge weeks and then have some down weeks, and those will be covered up by my RB1's overall like consistency. So I like Marlon Mack because he's going to have those boom and bust weeks. But I'll go ahead and make that pick.
Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and draft it here. I'll let you focus. I want to give a special announcement here, just in the middle of the podcast. We had our first one-on-one series recently, but we already have somebody else scheduled here on the channel. I'm also talking to two people who have said yes. We just need to set dates. So I'm super, super freaking excited for that, honestly, because I honestly have heard really positive results here about that interview. I thought it was just some great content here. And he taught me, just if you don't mind me going on a tangent here for a quick 30 seconds to a minute, he taught me to go after players you like, and if there's nobody you truly believe in, even if they're a maybe or they're risky, just trade back, because just playing it safe in Dynasty is so important. And there's a guy here that I really, really like that I mentioned earlier. His name is David Montgomery. What do you think about the current board? Do we take Montgomery? Do we take somebody else? What's your thoughts on that?
As the board sits right now, I like Montgomery. I'm also really high on Kenyon Drake. I'm high on Drake, and it's just I think you don't like him. I know you don't, but I like Drake. I think he's going to be that workhorse this year. I think will put up better numbers in redraft than Montgomery. But also on the board you have Chris Godwin, who is projected to get, or is said to will be getting a lot of touches this year, be getting targeted a lot. So that's another potential guy. Even scrolling down a little bit, you start looking at Darius Geis, who has that potential to be a huge boom for us. But right here, it has to be between Montgomery, Drake, and Godwin, because there's Geis and all those guys down there are just huge boom busts things. So I know you don't like Drake, so I'll probably just end up taking him off the board here because we're not going to agree on that one. So between Godwin and Montgomery, we have two running backs already, but we also have two flex positions. So I'd probably be happier drafting Montgomery because he has that upside and that potential. But at the same time, it kind of hurts to not go after Godwin. Also, I just noticed looking at our board already, we have Mac, who is a week 6 bye. Montgomery is a week 6 bye. So that's another question mark. Do we want two running backs that have the same bye week? And that means we have to draft other weaker running backs late that'll have to go fill in together in that week 6. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking a little different here. I think we can get Godwin on the spin, who would be my pick, potentially, but the only problem with Godwin is we have Mike Evans, so we want two Tampa Bay wide receivers. But I kind of want to put pause. For me, the best player on the board, I didn't even realize he was on here, was Geis. But there's two factors that make me lean Montgomery. One is coming off the ACL. I think Geis' year is really 2020 rather than 2019, and maybe he'll come on strong second half of the year. Montgomery just has a role. We know what he's going to be. Montgomery's super safe, and he can catch. He's shown he can be a workhorse, which is why I value him over Drake. I don't hate Drake, by the way. I just don't like him as much as you. I guess I did say bleep Kenyon Drake previously on the podcast, so maybe I do. But for me, the pick here is David Montgomery because he's safer than the other running backs on the board. We need that third running back. It is a 2 flex. I'm not worried about the bye week because of the fact that there's the bye week, by the way. I didn't even notice where it said that. Learning stuff new every day. But I'd rather lose 1 week than draft somebody else who I think is going to bust. So for me, go ahead and draft Montgomery. I don't care about bye weeks, whatever. I'll take an L 1 week. So
I'm gonna go back though and rethink this. I like Montgomery, but I said before for Josh Jacobs, I like more proven players that have been in the league. We don't know what Montgomery's going to be. He could be a great player, he could be a bust. And honestly, I'm worried about the question marks. He doesn't have playing question marks. Sure, he's a great player, but we don't know what we're going to get. You know what I mean?
that's fair. I feel like you can make that argument with Drake, though, if that's who you're like debating between. I don't know who exactly. Like, who's the debate? Who are you trying to debate versus Montgomery? For me, go ahead.
It'd be Montgomery versus Drake, yes. But I'm honestly leaning a little bit more Drake because he has. Keep in mind this is redraft, so it's not dynasty. We don't have to keep Drake. And sure, after this season, Drake could be gone. But for this season, Drake is getting into that workhorse role. He's done really well. Averages over being just getting 10 touches a game. He's done really well with those averages. He kept him high. And also, he is that workhorse. The player behind him, I believe, is Callan Ballage, who isn't going to really challenge for that lead back role. David Montgomery has to compete with Tariq Cohen, and this is PPR, so Montgomery is also losing those receiving options to Cohen. So, I like Montgomery, but it's just the iffy part about him being a rookie. And Drake is sure he's not as proven in a workhorse role, but he's proven that he can play in the league, and he doesn't have as much competition.
Because the problem with Drake is you're kind of projecting him for a role he's never done. He's literally just kind of Drake. He's never been a workhorse, not in college. I didn't even care about the guy in high school. Maybe he was a workhorse then, good for him. But he's just never been a workhorse, and there's a reason why. If he was a workhorse, he'd be a workhorse. David Montgomery can be a workhorse. He has, in my opinion, Montgomery has the more defined role laid out for him. He has all those Jordan Howard touches, plus he's going to catch more. Nagy really wanted to make Howard a 3-down back. Howard was targeted a lot at the beginning before Nagy realized, dude, this guy can't catch. Montgomery's just too safe for me. Because we know what his role's going to be in 16 games, even if he's not good. I mean, he's going to finish around where Howard finished, minimum, with upside.
The thing with that, though, is that there's been, I think I saw earlier today, that the Bears were looking to extend Cohen. Why would they be looking to extend Cohen if they were going to make Montgomery that 3-down back?
They can both succeed in their roles.
Right, but why would you need Cohen if Montgomery is going to be? Why would you need to pay Cohen money after his rookie contract when you can just grab a guy cheaper that can come in as a second option if Montgomery goes down, if Montgomery is going to be that lead back? But they're keeping Cohen on a somewhat larger deal than what they would get from someone else while they're still keeping Montgomery. I think I like Montgomery. I love Montgomery and Dynasty. I think in a few years he could be a really, really, really good running back option. But in redraft, we know this year Drake, both of them are going to be in workhorse roles, and just Montgomery has more talent behind him pushing him. Drake, like I said, has Callan Ballage. Whereas you said Drake is relatively unproven in a workhorse role. Ballage is relatively unproven at all. He's barely gotten any touches throughout his career. And we just don't know what we're going to get from him. So I think they're going to lean on Drake, and I think he'll do. Sure, he won't average as well as he did in a smaller role because he's going to be banged up more. He's going to have to carry it more. He'll get tired more. But I think he has the potential to get that to be a decent workhorse. He won't be a top 10, top 15 guy, but I think he has a higher floor for me than Montgomery does.
I still disagree, and I know how we're gonna decide this, by the way, if you're okay with it. But I don't know. For Drake, you got to keep in mind he's in a Patriots-esque offense. The offense coordinator here, excuse me, is legit a Patriots guy. And what do the Patriots do? Committee. Like David Montgomery is so safe because he has all those touches laid out for him. He's literally just going to be Jordan Howard. And okay, here's how I'm going to decide this. I don't want to spend all day on this, if that's okay with you. We're going to go ahead here, and so your top two players here are Drake and Montgomery in that order, and my top two players are Montgomery and Geis. So how about we just take Montgomery because he's the consensus between the both of us? That just makes the most sense.
All right,
he's
yeah.
the one. Yeah. But how? Let's just see if Drake's there, and then we can talk about Drake again. Maybe I'll.
If Drake falls, we'll definitely consider it for the next pick.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and make that pick.
Hey, I'm confident this is going to work out, and you're going to be really, really happy this was your team.
Well, Drake's still there. What are we going to do?
Geis is still there, too.
Oh, by the way, we didn't mention before, got back to our pick, but you had Keenan Allen, Zach Ertz, Amari Cooper, AJ Green, Aaron Jones, Pat Mahomes, George Kittle, Devontae Freeman, Stephon Diggs, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Julian Edelman, Mark Ingram, Kerryon Johnson, Sony Michel, Philip Lindsay, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Golladay, Andrew Luck, and Cooper Kupp before we got back to our pick. Any of those names stick out to you that you want to just mention?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp didn't know he was in the league. I'm giving you shit about cops. I don't like this. Isn't super flex, so I don't like the QBs going early. To be serious here,
Agree.
Sorry for giving you shit. I didn't mean to give you a whole bunch of poop there. Corrected myself. So for me, looking back here, Woods. I was really hoping Woods would fall because I like Woods at that price. For wide receiver, for me, it's Moore or Boyd. I really like Boyd. For Godwin. For running back, it's Geis or Drake. And if you're really confident on Drake and you don't want to pick up a second wide receiver while we're here, I'm going to let you take it just because we've kind of gone with my guy recently. So you can kind of mix it and go with your guy. I'm not happy with the Drake pick. If it was me, I'd go Geis. If running back, if it was wide receiver, I'd probably go DJ Moore, Boyd, or Godwin. Probably Moore or Boyd because we already have Mike Evans. And I don't like stacking stuff like that. So.
Right. I think we'll go with Kenyon Drake, but at the same time, I'm gonna give a backwards thing for that because David Montgomery, like we mentioned, has the same bye week as Marlon Mac. If we grab Drake, we have a good option to fill in on that bye week. We can definitely win that week if Drake pans out well enough. So I think that's the pick, just if only for that reason. Sure, he may bust, but I think he'll be a good option for that week. He'll be much better than what we could get if we drafted one later, such as once you get down to near hundreds range, you have McKinnon, Royce Freeman, LaShawn McCoy. That's where it gets really iffy with your running backs. And so I think it's better to draft one up higher because I like having a stacked running back room. I don't know about you, but I like having a lot of options at running back.
This year, I'm thinking a little differently, though. I kind of want to be in the 1 through 4 spot and just grab a whole bunch of wide receivers because they're safe and grab Montgomery, who's one of my targets. Go ahead and grab Drake here, though. This is the only situation where I'd maybe think about taking a guy like Drake is because we already have 3 running backs we think are going to pan out so we can take the risk. Granted, my pick would be Geis because I think Geis' upside's better. I think his talent's better. So for me, Geis went there. I think that's a great value. But especially on a team, granted, I'd like to have more running backs on that team, but that's a nice potential RB1 if he pans out. Overall.
Going back to what I said about Tariq Cohen, because I just noticed it, Cohen is going to be there with Montgomery, and Cohen went in the 5th round right after Montgomery went at the end of the 4th. So they're both really good backs. They're both going to put up numbers, but it's just a question of who will get more touches each week. I think Montgomery definitely has the better option to get more touches, but Cohen is definitely going to get a lot of that receiving role. Other names that stood out before we picked again. There's 3 more quarterbacks gone. Those are going really high. I don't like that at all. Tyreke Hill went up real high. And I don't know. I wouldn't draft him, honestly. What do you think about Hill? Would you draft him in redraft?
Babe, I was on the sell train immediately, and that hasn't changed at
All right.
all for me. Um, Looking at who's on the board, kind of ugly, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like I'm looking at a mirror here, but not really, because I'm beautiful, but I'm ugly. The only who are you thinking? Because I don't know who I'm thinking. Because this is a redraft.
I
Who are you
think
thinking?
with we have 4 running backs, 1 wide receiver. I think we need to uh look for a wide receiver here. So I like Robbie Anderson, and then on the flip around, we will probably. I'm looking at N'Keal Harry. We could get 2 back-to-back wide receivers there. What do you think about that?
I did like myself some N'Keal Harry more in redraft because I do think N'Keal Harry could have a slow rookie start.
I'm gonna pause the draft real quick so I can make put a few more picks in for our quarterback. I made too few picks, but you can go on ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. So for me, just thinking about it here, overall, it's tough. I like Robbie. I think Robbie's the pick here for me. And we can maybe get a N'Keal Harry here on the swing around. I do like Robbie. N'Keal Harry just kind of has his problems because he's struggling in training camp, to get back to my main point. Granted, all I've heard is he's been lined up against Gilmore most of the day, which obviously Stephon Gilmore is the best cornerback in football, so you really can't give a rookie, crap for that, because it's N'Keal. It's just a rookie, N'Keal Harry. He's been practicing with Tom Brady. I think it's just 3 days into like OTAs or whatever it is, or mandatory training camp. Sorry, so don't take that too much for granted. For me, the pick here is Robbie Anderson. I like him. I also like Allen Robinson, but since we have Montgomery and Anderson could be the wide receiver 1 in an improved Jets offense, and he's going to be moved around according to Gase, which is the preseason hype lord. Remember in Miami? I say go ahead with Anderson.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. Anderson is going to be that wide receiver 1 more than likely on the offense, and this with the 6th round pick, late 6th round going into the 7th. You don't find many wide receiver 1s that have young, talented quarterbacks that could blow up and have really big upside. So I think Anderson is definitely the pick.
100%.
All right, let's go Anderson. Let's see who goes here. Matt Ryan and Eric Ebron.
So nothing changed, right? Is Penny available at running back?
Rashad Penny?
Yeah.
I believe he would be.
Kind of want to take Penny. I know that sounds weird because we already have 4 running backs.
Where is he? Hold up.
He's 89.
All right, I found him.
There's a couple reasons why I want to do this. One is because probably, let's be honest, 2 of our running backs are probably going to bust. I'm not in love with any of the wide receivers on the board. They're all rookies who probably won't produce, being realistically. Maybe one of them will. Darrell Henderson's another interesting name. I don't know if I'm willing to take him that rich. Drew, who came on the podcast recently, and I'll always shout out people who come on when they bring up points about players. He loves Penny this year. He thinks even if he's behind Chris Carson, he can be an RB2. And since we have some riskier running backs, such as an unproven Montgomery, injury-prone Mac, Drake, who's never proven he can handle a lot of touches, right? All risk there. Taking a guy like Penny means we honestly don't have to take a running back till maybe one of the last rounds. It means we can all focus on these wide receiver 2s in their offenses. Maybe there's still 1 here. I didn't necessarily look at that yet. We can just stack a whole bunch of wide receivers because I think this is the last time we can grab a running back. What do you think about that?
I just give mixed reviews for Penny. I am not sold on him. The name I want to bring up is the top name left on the board. Evan Ingram. Look at the tight ends. The tight ends are starting to fly off the board. If we don't act soon, we aren't going to grab one. And after Evan Ingram and Jared Cook, I don't think there's many really, really good talents left on the board. I mean, you have Njoku, sure, he could be decent, but they have too many weapons on that Cleveland offense. It kind of scares me. After that, it gets up to, I don't know, Austin Hooper. He could do well, could do very poorly. You have rookies and Hawkinson and Fant. You have some depth options, but I think at this slot with Evan Ingram still available, that's a great value because he gives us a tight end that will definitely put up numbers each week. And even though Eli Manning is regressing, it's Evan Ingram is going to put up some decent numbers. He'll give us a really good option at tight end for every single week. And I think for me, Evan Ingram is the selection.
I like Ingram too. The problem is, I think we can get a tight end like Vance, Hooper, or Fant, which would be my next three. I like Fant more in redraft, Hawkinson more in dynasty. Because Fant doesn't have much to compete with Hawkinson, it's more to compete with. Plus, they may use him as a blocker earlier on in his rookie career. Anywho, I like Penny because, like I said, after this running back, I don't think we can grab anyone else. And having 5 strong running backs can be used as trade assets because maybe one of these first round picks, like a Melvin Gordon, like a Fournette, like a Dalvin Cook, maybe one of them gets injured. Knock on wood, probably like a Todd Gurley. Hopefully they don't get injured. But for me, this is our last chance to get a running back. And even if he's not starting for us, we can sell him later. But probably one of our running backs are going to get injured pretty early on in the year.
You know
so
what?
I really, really like Penny.
I disagree that that's our last chance to grab a running back because you scroll down and you still see one option that's still available on the board that I think could put up some decent numbers in PPR is you see Nyheim Hines. Sure, we have Mac, but Hines could potentially put up some good numbers. If Mac is that running back that gets injured, like you were saying, Hines becomes not quite the workhorse, but he gets a lot more touches. He'll be targeted more often. So I like Hines, but I think we can wait around for Hines if you want to do that, and we can just get Ingram here, so we don't have to worry about tight ends. Because if you're looking at those tight ends in the later rounds, like you mentioned, Hooper has big weeks, small weeks. You have all those tight ends down there that can blow up one week and then disappear the next. And Fant, I love Fant, but we don't know what he's going to do yet. We aren't certain how good he's going to be. And like I've already said multiple times this podcast, I like the proven player more. Overall, I think I can't get past Evan Ingram at this value. He's the 70th rated player, and I believe we are past pick 80 at this point.
You can go ahead and take Ingram. I'm going to let you win one because I'm nice. But the next debate, I think you should let me win. But that's okay because we're going to kind of collab here. I think Penny's the pick because you can go ahead and pick him here when I talk. Sorry, you can go ahead and pick Ingram here when we talk. For me, it's just Penny. Drew mentioned this, and he's kind of like he meets all 3 of the things: workhorse size, draft capital, and did he like look good? Was he like efficient? He meets all 3 honestly. And one Chris Carson injury, this guy RB1 with how much they run. Honestly, he's going to be an RB1. So, what I meant by saying there's the running backs, obviously there's more running backs on the board, but this is a big but. I guess there's Royce Freeman here too, but I think honestly Penny is RB2 upside. So, damn, he just went a little bit before.
I
So that's unfortunate.
I was watching for him.
Yeah, but I think Royce is here, and I like Royce. So overall, I'm content taking Ingram because Royce is here. So overall, I think we won taking Ingram because Ingram's my tight end 5. That's sometimes playing the board, and luckily Royce slid to us, so that's awesome. We can also look at wide receivers here. Right. Pattis is interesting. Kirk's interesting. Corey Davis is also interesting. Drew is also very high in the Titans offense. Sutton's also interesting. E.D. Westbrook. There's still some wide receiver 1s on this team here. What do you think?
Keep in mind this is redraft, so I think a really good value here at wide receiver would be Larry Fitzgerald. Because he has Kyler Murray coming in. They're going to an air raid offense. They're going to be passing a lot, and Larry Fitzgerald is that number 1 receiver. Sure, they have Kirk there, who's going to take some catches away from Fitz, but Larry Fitzgerald last year, I believe, was 33 or 34 years old last season, and he still put up. I think he had 100 some catches, and he's just going to be that consistent guy. I think he'll put up some good numbers in PPR even this season. He'll give us good value this late in the draft, and I think he's a really good wide receiver to sit on here. What do you think?
I don't hate taking Fitz. You bring up some great points. For me, problem with Fitz. Fitz. There's just so many weapons that are around, and Fitz, honestly, a lot of those Josh Rosen, but he regressed too. He's older. I don't know if he has that upside. I'd be okay with taking Fitz if we take Royce now, because Royce for me is that last running back I'm really looking at here who has like that upside immediately and like the talent. We can grab our RB5 who has potential to boom, and then I bet you Fitz is going to be here on the turn. So that's me playing the turn here again. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Sure, I like player running backs later on than Freeman. I'm not really high on Freeman, but Lindsay, you've mentioned it before. I disagree, but I'll agree he is a smaller back. He has the potential to get injured. So if he does, that thrusts Freeman into that starting role, that workhorse every down back. And sure, he won't be every down because I don't believe coming out on tape he looked very good receiving the ball. So I think they'll have a receiving back with him on there. But Freeman is definitely the best running back available, and he gives us a really good option for if Lindsay goes down, he'll be an RB2, RB1 potentially, and that's just a really high upside pick there. So I like that in the 8-11 pick. You look for that upside. You're not going to find a guy here with that's going to give you consistent points totals. So you look for that upside, and that's what I always do. So I like Freeman. I totally agree.
Yeah, go ahead and take Freeman here. Then Fitz on the turn.
If Fitz makes it.
Fitz is going to make it. Watch this.
Bam. All right. So we agree it's Fitz here then?
Yeah, that's cool with me.
And we've already brought up points on Fitz. So
yeah. So we're all set there.
So you can go ahead and talk about any players that were taken in the last 2 rounds while I auto pick for all these.
Yeah, no problem. So this is kind of the shits here. Shepard's interesting value. If we didn't have Ingram and if we wanted a wide receiver, I would have said him. Well, I guess we did get a wide receiver. I think I like Shep more than Fitz, but I'm okay with Fitz because I get where he's coming from. Maybe we have to start looking at quarterback here. Holy crap. I think I would have had Davis over Fitz, honestly, too. But I can't really hate Fitz because it's just Fitz. You got to respect one of the greats. Corey Davis in the 10th is actually really good value. Courtland Sutton in the 10.7, great value. James Washington's an interesting guy here. So glad we took a running back, though. Because we have a wide receiver one in his offense like a Westbrook here. We have a Paris Campbell. A Deshaun Hamilton.
Right. I'm gonna go back on what you said. You thought you might have Shepard over Fitz. The issue with that, if we get Shepard, that's a stack with Evan Ingram, and a tight end wide receiver stack rarely ever turns out well. So I think Fitz is. I'd go Fitz all the way there, just because I don't want that weird stack in a good or a decent but not great offense. So I think Ingram overall has the better potential than Shepard. Shepard is a great receiver. He'll be great from the slot. He'll put up some good numbers. But we already have Ingram, and I really don't think Shepard would be a good pick there. I agree though. Corey Davis would have been a decent pick there. He's a wide receiver one there, but I just think Fitz. Last year he had 100 some receptions, and he's getting old already. So he'll still put up some good numbers this year. Plus, it's going to be an air raid offense, like we said. And I think he'll just, sure, they're going to pass the ball around a bit more, but I think he still pushes 80, 90 catches.
For me here, just the picks are going to be Westbrook and then Dak if he's there on the turn. Normally, I wouldn't take a quarterback because most teams already have a quarterback, but Sleeper is going to draft you 2 quarterbacks. And if your leagues are like that where they draft 2 quarterbacks, you got to take a quarterback earlier because I'm guaranteeing you Sleeper's going to take a whole bunch of quarterbacks here once it comes back to our turn, unless the team already has 2 quarterbacks, which it looks like some of them do, some of them don't. I guarantee you probably 5-6 quarterbacks are going to go. So this is our last chance to grab someone like Dak, who's a top 10 quarterback for me. Still have a top 10 quarterback here at the back of the 10th or the beginning of the 11th round. Westbrook, wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's going to be on our bench, so if he busts. I believe he won that wide receiver award in college. So, what do you think?
I agree. Westbrook is a good pick. I think he's that wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you also have yeah, honestly, I don't see really many players behind him that have that high potential. You could potentially make a push for players such as Paris Campbell or I honestly don't know. Maybe Naheem Hines, who has the potential to be a decent back, but I agree. We already have 5 running backs, I believe, and we only have 3 receivers. So I think I'll agree with you. Westbrook is going to be my pick here.
Did you say he's not the number 1 in that offense? Because I think he's number 1 on the depth chart. Unless
No,
Lee,
I was wondering if he was, or if I was curious if you knew if he was the number 1.
I saw and I think he was, but Lee could be that. But I still think he's the best wide receiver in Jacksonville. So go ahead and take Westbrook for now.
All right, I agree with that.
Let's see. Does this team take a quarterback? Do they already have to? Yep, they do. Wow, it's like I know the sleeper algorithm.
All right.
So this is my point.
Right.
I want to look through the quarterbacks here. Who do we have? We have Jimmy G, Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott. Those kind of 4 in a tier for me. I like Lamar Jackson too, maybe. But for me, those 4 in a tier, and I think all 4 of them are going to go here. Because we have a while till our turn.
I like Dak here because he gets trashed on a ton, but hold on.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, hold on. The draft is acting up, but I'll have to make the picks auto pick here. If I can. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so
I say Dak too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dak because he's gonna give us that good floor. He always puts up decent numbers. He gets trashed a lot, but he's not gonna be horrible. He'll give us consistent QB numbers. I think he hasn't finished worse than QB 11 throughout his 3 years now. He's been QB 11, QB 10, and QB 6, I believe, throughout his career. So he'll give us a good floor. He'll give us this late in the 11th round. He'll give us a good value. So you want to go with? Are we going with the Dak?
Dak, yep, Dak it up.
Dak it is.
Dak's pretty consistent. He gets slender. He's a better fantasy quarterback than real life quarterback. That's cool. I mean, the only reason why I take him here is I'd wait and just see if any of those 4 quarterbacks came back to us. But while none of the quarterbacks are going, what the heck is this? Wow, I guess we read the draft wrong.
Gronk and Doug Baldwin.
Wow,
so that's why
crazy.
This draft board is weird. There goes Jimmy G.
Yeah. So it looks like we're wrong here.
Josh
Allen?
Allen?
Half right. Yeah. So we're half right. We could have gotten a quarterback, but there's no players that really loved there to the point where I felt like we had to risk the quarterback. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I was hoping Peyton Barber would fall to us because he's the RB1 in a Tampa Bay offense. Granted, he isn't really that good, but it doesn't matter because he's the RB1 in a good offense. So, who are you thinking about here?
I'm high on Marquise Brown. You know I'm high on Marquise Brown. He's a wide receiver 1. You know, he's that guy. He will put up numbers week in, week out. I think I like Marquise Brown here because you're scrolling down, you're not going to find another option that's a wide receiver one or RB1. You're not going to find a first option for a team other than Marquise Brown. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I agree because he's a number one on his offense, so he has that upside. We're investing really late. It's just 1 year. I say go for Marquise Brown because he's that upside. We also need probably a good wide receiver, so we really value that upside with
And
how our
that
team's built.
gives us our fifth wide receiver.
Yeah, we need a fifth wide receiver.
Okay, well, before we do that, though, we have one tight end, one quarterback. Do we want to grab a second tight end or a second quarterback, or do we just go ahead and go Brown?
I say you hold on here. Don't do that. If this is a reach out for league, wait till like the week before if you really need one of those backup guys. Or just honestly wait and just stash these extra skill position players, especially in a 12-man league, and just kind of see what the heck happens.
So let's pick Brown here, but once we get back to our pick, I want to point something out.
Go ahead.
If he's still on the board, which I expect he will be. All right. Let's get us a second tight end. Look down just flick to your tight end column. Look at the second tight end on the board.
169. I was about to say if there's one tight end I don't mind, it's Noah Fant. I hate taking two tight ends though, because Noah Fant should realistically never start with us with how much we invested in Ingram, unless Ingram gets injured.
Right, but at the same time, it's a toss-up between we have one tight end, we have one quarterback. Which do you prefer more? Would you prefer Kirk Cousins more, or would you prefer Noah Fant more? It's all about your preference. What do you think?
I don't want to do any of that. I want to take another skill position player here.
Okay.
And just pick up an extra backup quarterback once we need it. I like Andy Isabella. I like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who could be the number 2 in that offense. I have Curtis Samuel. He's a guy that's come up a lot. He matched DJ Moore's production. He even was more efficient than him on less snaps. I really like Curtis Samuel here, honestly.
I like Samuel too, but let's look at the other Samuel wide receiver there. You have Debo. And Debo Samuel is going in, and it's been said that he's going to be more than likely going to be a starter this year on that offense. And San Francisco, Jimmy G is a talented quarterback. There's still questions around his game because we don't know if he's going to really do well or not. But Samuel is going to be RB2 or an RB1 on that offense. So I think that's another option there. I think it's honestly between Curtis Samuel and Debo Samuel and Noah Fant for me. It's between those guys.
I want to go with Curtis Samuel. I think to use one of your points against you, like you so cleverly did to me earlier, Curtis Samuel is proven, Debo Samuel isn't. Rookie wide receivers tend not to produce. Curtis Samuel in year three wide receiver breakout. It's Samuel for me.
I agree. We'll go Samuel. And
we can always just grab Noah Fant, like on the waiver wire, or maybe somebody else. I do really like Fant. We have Ingram, so
right. And there goes Debo.
Yeah.
There goes Kirk. So
that's okay because we can get someone like Lamar Jackson, and he should only really play like 1 week for us. So.
And there's Lamar Jackson.
There's the draft.
All right.
Awesome. So there's our whole draft right there, as you can see on screen. Looks pretty good. Any regrets? Anything you like? Anything you hate? Before we wrap up here.
I mentioned it already, but I would have preferred maybe grabbing a second tight end or a second quarterback compared to getting another skill position player. But at the same time, I think we'll be fine. I really like. We'll have Zeke, Mac is our 2 running backs. Evans and Anderson will be our wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So those are some really good options there. You have Montgomery, Drake, Freeman, Fitzgerald, and Westbrook you can pick from for that flex role. And you have Ingram, who's a great tight end to go with. Dak's a really good quarterback for that late in the draft who'll put up good numbers, and he will. He probably won't really get a big boom, but he'll be a consistent guy who you can go with. And then our last two picks are really high upside guys with Marquise Brown and Curtis Samuel. Both could blow up and have huge years, or both could have some down years. It's just we'll have to see how that plays out for them. But overall, we grabbed I believe 5 running backs and 6 receivers, and I'm really happy with that overall because we started running back heavy, but later on we still grabbed some really, really good wide receiver options and Fitzgerald and Westbrook who can start in a pinch if we need them to. Plus, you have the breakout potential of Samuel and Brown. We also grabbed some high upside running backs in Marlon Mac, Kenyon Drake, and Royce Freeman. Sure, one of them could bust, 2 of them could bust, but there's out of those 3, I think at least one has a good year, at least. So that'll be, and then we have Montgomery and Zeke. Montgomery is a question mark as a rookie, so we'll have to see how that plays out, but I think he'll have a decent year. And Zeke is Zeke, so I'm not worried about that. The only issue I would see, if I was going to make a trade, I might try to trade for another wide receiver because we aren't quite exactly sure what Anderson's going to do. He could have a huge year, but he could also not. I think Fitz is a good option as a wide receiver too in a pinch, but I feel like there's better options out there that we could trade for. What are your thoughts on our draft?
On the draft, I'm going to ask you this too here when I'm done, but I'd be happy if this was my team. Obviously, I'd take guys over Drake. We have our own little nitpicky things. You'd take a quarterback instead of Samuel there, a tight end like Noah Fant instead. Good thing is if we want Noah Fant, literally right now, we could go pick him up. This is an actual league. Absolutely free. Absolutely free. The quarterback, unfortunately, 2 of them went. That's not a massive deal. Quarterback's pretty deep. There's probably going to be like a Nick Foles maybe could work out. Matt Stafford could maybe have another solid backup year. Not too worried about that. Overall, I'd be pretty happy if this was my draft. I like it. There's a lot of high upside. I definitely try to ship off looking back. Maybe like a Kenyon Drake. Maybe for him it'd be a David Montgomery for you, Trenton, for another wide receiver. But I like being stacked on running backs because these aren't permanent assets. We can trade these assets, even Royce Freeman. So, I'm pretty happy with it. Would you be happy if this was your real team?
I totally would be happy. And everyone always, like, last 2 years, the big thing has been going running back 0. You grab a lot of wide receivers early. I think we did pretty much the exact opposite of that. We grabbed 1 wide receiver in our first 5 picks. And I'm totally happy with that because we have 4 running backs that could really have big years. And we could even trade one if we need another wide receiver. Not to mention, we got some really good value late in the draft with Fitzgerald and Westbrook. So I think, honestly, if I was draft this year in redraft, I think I might even go with this type of draft again with going running back heavy early. Because this draft, I actually really loved it, and I think if you put it in a league this year, it'll do really, really, really well. Could win you a league. Because you got a lot of really good value in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it too. But with that being said, I think that's all the time we really have here today, Trenton. So, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I want to thank myself for taking time out of my day. I want to thank mainly the viewers, though, for taking time out of their day here to stick with us all the way here to the end with this podcast. We really love you guys. We're going to collaborate here. We're going to try to collaborate with interviews, mock drafts, a whole bunch of stuff. We have a whole bunch of plans here. It's only going to get bigger and better once Sinatson comes back. But we're holding down the fort pretty okay, I'd say. So stay tuned for more content. Have a nice rest of your days. Sound good to you, Trenton?
That sounds fantastic. See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.